Don't block the truck. All right, you're skinny now. You don't block as much truck as you used to.
I can feel it because I'm freezing. Freezing right now in the
Hey,
shade.
listen, it's not hot today.
There's ice on the ground.
There's there's literally ice in the parking lot. But hey, look, I'd rather be a little cold bundled up than be sweating to death. So today we're here at the local junkyard, aka my shop, and we're going to put two trucks into one. What we're going to call the world's cheapest square body, more or less.
I like the sound of it.
So we saw last time, we got the service body. What started out life as a C20, and we're going to combine it with this C30 crew cab dually to make one regular cab dually, in theory. We got a little late start today because, let's face it, it's cold and it's Saturday and we don't like waking up early. But we're going to try to at least get the back of it done.
I was out late last night.
And yeah, he had to walk half a dozen dogs this morning.
Oh, you ain't lying.
So yeah, we're going to get all these pulled over in front of the shop and start cutting them up.
Woo. Like you said, junkyard.
This one needs a little loopy-doobie on it. It'll be all right. These doors are getting swapped out for dually doors.
Oh, that's good.
All right. All right, gun it.
Tally ho! Oh yeah.
I was kidding with a gun it. It's so much easier than pushing or catching it on fire.
Oh, that is better. Does this thing have brakes?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. It seems to be a common theme around these parts.
Pulling stuff into the
Pulling
shop.
stuff in.
Well, as long as we drive it out of the shop and not pull it out of the shop, it's okay.
Some progress has been made.
Yeah. But today this was gonna be pulled out of the shop. Let's see. You just don't see anything and let them
Real
push it.
convenient for you, Tim.
Y'all got it. You're so strong.
Okay.
I'm so proud of you
I
guys.
have to do a lot better than this to get up over that hump.
Y'all got it. This is where
Feel the speed. Feel the power.
push from the gear changer.
Gonna be no gooch left. Anything good in this here service bed?
Yeah, there's some parts in here. Oh, it's got, look, it's got the double locks on this one. So first you pull out the back.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Then you can open it up.
Oh yeah. Good. Yesterday's rainstorm in here.
Got all the trim, hardware.
It's got drawers over here.
Dude, drawers.
Need a little bit of greasing. That's a little better than my Craftsman. That's pretty good.
All right, so first things first, got the truck, service truck. It's gonna be confusing. We call it the service truck and the dually because it's about to be a dually here in a little while. Oh yeah, and the top, oh, that side of the top opens up. Anyway, first things first, we gotta get this bed off of here. And this bed is ridiculously heavy. So brought in here to lift it with the lift because yeah, I'm getting too old to to try to lift this thing. There's no way. I mean, I can barely budge it. So yeah, we're not as young and dumb as we used to be. We have equipment, time to use it. So we already got all the, years ago I got ready to do this and took all the bolts off the bed. So just got to pull the fuel filler necks, the taillight harness.
Wow.
Should be able to lift off.
That's news to me. That's good news to me.
Yeah.
Hey Tim, what you doing under there? I thought all the bed bolts were out.
Yeah, they were until we found out the bed's welded to the chassis.
What tool you got there, buddy? The bed remover 9000 is what that is.
Woo! Yeah.
All right. Don't mind that gas right there.
I don't know. Attempt 12 at taking this bed off.
All the bolts were out.
All the bolts are out. Keep going. Still lifting.
It's rotating. It's moving though. I don't know about your.
What's moving?
Like it's breaking the weld or something. Like I can see it kind of rotating around where the weld was. You see how it's not at the same angle? I don't know.
Give a little more gusto, Chris. Watch your head, Andrew, in case it pops loose.
Yeah. Oh man. I can hear it. I can hear it. It wants to.
All right, let it down. We're gonna work it back and forth a couple times.
Whoop. We got about 3 times in me, so.
All right.
Okay.
Gun it.
Gun it.
Is it moving?
I might have been just seeing something. Might have been my eyes playing tricks on me.
Oh, I think it's you playing tricks on me. Hit it again. I don't see it moving.
Is this maybe?
What are we missing? It's picking it up off of that cross member. Something right here at the back.
It's definitely at the very back, whatever it is.
Is there another weld I'm missing? Oh yeah, right there.
No, you're lying to me. You're absolutely lying.
Is that not a stitch right there on the inside of the frame rail?
On the inside? Yeah, definitely is on both sides.
Well,
She not gonna go, Tim. She not gonna go. Hey Tim, I thought all the bolts are out.
they were. They're really about to be out
They're
now.
about to be out now.
Hey, now all the bolts are out.
All right, hit it, Chris. Let's see what it look like.
Going up.
Going up.
How's it looking?
Ow.
Looks like it's still taking it with it.
Keep going. Keep going. All right. Now.
All the bolts are out.
Allegedly.
There you go. There you go. We're staying. We're staying. Oh, that's a big W right there.
Woo! Long time coming.
Only took a couple hours.
Minutes in YouTube world.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just try to whip you. But ain't whipping us today.
Alright guys, excuse the air compressor in the background. I can't turn that off right now. But as I'm sure you guys know, we are using all the parts off this truck and putting them on that truck. Now Tim, as horrible as it may seem, wants to put the running boards back on. Oh, it hurts me. It hurts me a little bit. But he does not want to reuse the visor. Now, Tim doesn't know I'm recording this. I need you guys to go in the comments and convince Tim to put the visor on that truck. He's gonna reuse these, cut them down to size, and reuse them on that truck, but not the visor. I need you guys to tell him to put the visor on the truck. That's the coolest part. Other than the graphics, that's the coolest part. I need you guys to do your job because I can't convince him.
Does anyone else have those days or weeks or projects where every bolt fights you, every wire is a problem? That's this truck. Our buddy Taylor has nicknamed it the Drama Dually because it has been nothing but drama, start to finish. Took us like half a day, almost a whole day to take 2 beds off. As you can see in the previous footage there, the service bed was welded to the chassis, didn't expect that. Then on the dually, the 5th wheel hitch was sandwiched between the bed floor, or the bed floor was sandwiched between the hitch, so I ended up cutting the center of the bed floor. It was a mess, but we're pushing through. We're gonna get this done whether it likes it or not. As you can see, we've got some sheet metal on and off, started swapping some of that stuff over. Left the front clip off so far just because it's easier to work right here. And as you can see, we've already got the front converted over to the dually hubs, dually wheels. Now, I didn't film this whole process because this truck started life as a C20, and that's the premise I want to try to stay around. But at one point, I converted this thing to 5-lug. So just to let you know, to catch you up, if you're starting with a C20 like we are, kind of, the only thing you have to do to change it to a dually is they retain the stock, or excuse me, they retain the same control arms, the same ball joints. We did a belltech part number 3500 3-inch drop spindle. We gave the old coil spring a little 1-round haircut. Came up with this combination from a dude on Instagram called 8-Lug Life. Really informative dude. He deals with a bunch of these. He posts in there. I cut 1 round off. I cut a quarter. I run these like, hey, if you ever watch this, shout out to you, man. Gives me a good starting point. So yeah, we put the drop spindles, cut 1 round out of the coil, put the dually offset rotor on it, and yeah, that was all it really takes to convert the front end over. Same shocks, same ball joints, all that's good to go. Now we're going to move along to the back. And this is where the never-ending drama. All right, so as you can see here, we pulled out the fuel tanks, got that ready because we're going to replace them, or replace at least one of them. And I happened to notice, I was like, man, this distance looks a little far. I don't know. I just got to throw a tape measure on it. Now, we did take the bed off of the dually, but we had to put it back on for storage. But I measured from the back of the cab of the dually to the center line of the axle, and it came up with, I don't remember, whatever, I think it was 56 inches. Measured from the back of the cab on this one to the center line, and this is 60 inches. Long story short, this isn't actually a long bed. This is actually, I believe, a cab and chassis. So it would have started life as literally a cab and chassis, and you would have put your service bed, flat bed, whatever. And it really threw me off because I've never seen a C20 cab and chassis. The only ones I've ever seen are C30, so we're learning the hard way. But that's fine. What we're going to do here is we're going to proceed with our Tinworks notch flip kit, converting over dually axle here. And we're just going to have to come in somewhere in this ballpark. We're going to shorten her on down. And even further, this is really how I originally noticed. I noticed it didn't have the holes to mount the bed like it's supposed to. And that's when I went on to investigate further. But it's fine. I've cut up many long beds and turned them to short beds. Now I'm just taking an extra long bed and turning it into a regular long bed. I'll show you how we do that. We'll make it either part of this video or another one, I don't know. But we're just going to take the little bit of distance out of it, and it's going to be a long bed. So first things first, we got to blow all this stuff apart. This would have been a full floating full floating 14 bolt, which you could turn that into a dually axle, but obviously that's gone. So we're just going to rip all this stuff out, take all the stuff out of the dually, put it right on here, keep going. All right, as you can see, leaf spring and dually rear end is out. The donor truck here. Time to address these leaf spring packs. Before we throw them in, we got to modify them a little bit. By modify, I mean we got to get rid of this overload spring. See, this guy on the very top here that's not tied in with the rest of the pack. That guy, got to go. This little spacer guy, also got to go. Super simple, just a little 9/16 bolt here and here. But first things first, put your C-clamp on. These things are under a lot of tension, and you don't want to, you know, let that nut loose and lose a few digits. So we're going to put this guy on here. I'm going to need both my hands for that. We're going to replace it with just another grade 8 socket head bolt. As you can see, the factory bolt actually doesn't have a head, any kind of head. And they do make leaf spring tie bolts, but no one in town has one, or at least the right size. Local hardware store, grade 8, all metal lock nut, no problem. I believe these are 4-inch total, so maybe they'll help you out on your project. But yeah, just take that out, delete on those guys, and then it will look like this. Yep, went ahead and did this side just so I can get my measurements right. So yeah, leaf springs modified. Now it's got to clean up the 2 acres of red dirt that came with this thing. We'll catch you up here. Getting pretty exciting because things are starting to come together. It's no more blowing everything apart. It's actually like, let's put stuff back together point. So here we go. All right, dually axles in, leaf springs in. So yeah, looking cool. So catch up for those that don't know. Where we're getting our 8-inch drop in the rear is from a flip kit. So if you remember, the axle tube here used to live under the leaf spring. Now we put it on top. So the distance of the axle tube plus the distance of the leaf spring pack gives us our 8 inches of drop. Now we're using a kit from Tinworks Fabrication, which comes with these new saddles here. And it was a little, I don't know, I'm not gonna say it's deceptive, but it listed as a flip kit. Most flip kits will have ears that come from the top of this up to the previous saddle to help locate the pinion angle. This kit does not. After some research, Switch suspension kit does come with that. So keep that in mind. It's not a big deal. All we have to do, and you can see here, I don't have the pinion angle set. It's just in there wherever it wanted to live. All we have to do is just get the pinion angle set, weld these up. It's not a big deal, but if you use the Tinworks kit, at least with the 10-bolt axle, do be ready to set the pinion angle and figure that out on your own. So, like we said, got this in here, and it has a pin that centers off of the leaf spring pin that we installed, and that is offset to the front to help move the axle to the back slightly to make up for moving it from the bottom to the top. Also, the bottom plate has a hole in it. Orient that to the front as well. And there you go. Well, obviously you can see this, that's not gonna cut it. We don't have enough room for activities right there. So our solution is gonna be the Tinworks in-frame notch. One of the things I like about this, TW, Tinworks, also my initials, Tim Wallace. So, hey, pretty cool. Now this is a bolt-in situation, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to weld this unit in. Why? I have no reason to take it back out, and I have a welder. So that's what we're going to do. I need a little stronger. All right, so what we do here is we want to find the center line of the axle so that we can orient that with the center line of the knot. I had the axle with some weight on it and found center line, and I did this just to show you guys, right? I had some weight on it, dropped my speed square, because we know the top of this rail is level, or straight, what we're going off of. I dropped my speed square down and found center line of the axle. Then I jacked it up and put all the weight on the chassis. It's actually on the leaf springs right now, all the weight is. You drop it down again. Now you can see it moved essentially 3/16 of an inch. When you make this mark, be sure that all the weight's on the axle so you can find a true center line for your notch. And how do we know where the center line of the notch is? Well, what I've done here is, well, first off, it does not come gold. I have sprayed this with a weld through primer because, like I said, we're going to weld this notch on, and there's no way to protect this from corrosion and rust. So went ahead and sprayed some of that on there, let that cure. But right here in the middle of the notch is the bump stop locating hole. That is going to be your center, front to rear. So just made a mark off of that, lined it up here with the correct center mark, and then you just trace around it. that's going to give you where you need to cut. And then you'll come down here, you'll just trace, and then you'll go straight across the bottom for the bottom of the notch, cut that section out. Now that we have everything marked, one thing I like to do, I learned this from my buddy Chaparro across the way. He cuts 10 frames a week for like NBS trucks. Is we're going to not only let the suspension down, but we're going to take out one of the bolts for the shackle. And basically with a bolt out of the shackle, it's going to have no load or strain on the frame rail, because with that hooked up, there's a chance that it can put a little tension on this rail one way or another. We don't want that. We want zero chance of there being any issue. We unhook this, make our bottom marks, and let's cut up and ruin this chassis, because why not?
Nerd. Your hammer fell, almost took out my foot.
You got the foot?
Almost did.
Let's get them on, man. Ta-da!
Wow.
Officially ruined. Don't need this where we're going. Whoop. You just take that guy, you take this guy, and you go, boom, just like that. Obviously, then we're going to clean up the perimeter, clean up all where the plug weld holes are going to be, but it gives you an idea. Now granted, we don't currently have the weight on the differential suspension like we talked about, but you can see how much more room for activities we get with this. All right, another beautiful day to be back here in the shop. Got everything fitted up last night to weld the notch in. Now remember, these notches aren't specifically welded in. They actually have holes where you could bolt them. All right, and I'm sure that would be totally fine, but at the end of the day, this is a 1 ton, well now it's a 1 ton dually, and in case I or whoever owns it next actually wants to use this as a truck, I'd rather have this thing sewn up for that little bit of extra strength. Maybe it's just a peace of mind, I don't know, but it's getting welded in regardless. So let me show you the fit up here. So obviously I went ahead, and even though this is clean new metal, I just went ahead and ground the edge all the way around, ground all this. I'm gonna plug weld all those so they got ground behind there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get you a little light on the situation. I'm gonna go ahead and weld the inside as well. Now you can see right here how I stepped it back, and the reason being is this frame rail angles up. So when I cut it to the edge of this, it created a big gap right here. So I just cut it back, you know, 1/4 inch or so, and that caused it to close the gap here up. So I mean, pretty good fit up. At the end of the day, we're MIGging it, so you know what they say. With a MIG welder, if you can step across it, you can weld it. And we gonna weld it, so stick around. This is my favorite part. Heavy, thick gauge metal welding, you just blaze it in there. All right, got her welded up here, looking beautiful. Couple little tips here. So we marked this center line earlier here, and then right there. So just, you know, you want to eyeball those, make sure everything's centered up when you weld. And this is 1/4 inch plate. That's a 1/4 inch frame. You got to run your welder hot, but you don't have to put it on kill mode. Just take your time, weld it well, and you know, it'll come out nice. And if you run into any issues, like right here, I had a little bit of porosity in the weld for some reason. Everything was clean, ground, I don't know. Had a little porosity. Grind it back out, re-weld it. This is a chassis. Don't take any risk with this. Got it all welded up, outside, inside's looking nice. Everything's good. We're officially notched. Next thing we got to handle, we got to get these perches. Got to get the rear end pinion angle set and make sure side to side that everything's square and like it should be. So I'll show you a couple little things we like to do here. Yeah, I've got this side welded up too. Kind of knocked the heads off the welds there. I mean, it's good to go. We want to make sure the rear end is square side to side. Make sure that we don't weld these off a little crooked and then your rear end be off to one side a little bit. So I like to take a couple points of reference for measurements. I like to do from the backing plate, right there on the backing plate of the drum, okay, to the edge of the frame rail. And I know it's gonna be hard to see on this camera here, but it's looking like 10 and, let's see, if we get it right on the side, 10 and 3/16 basically. I'm gonna call that 10 and 3/16 as well. This is the way my eye's looking at it. So I'm gonna measure, you know, from the back of the notch, from the front of the notch. We're gonna measure, find a common place like right there. There's a little stud on the back of the flange to the edge of the perch there. And we're looking like 7 and 3/8. All right, now see on this side, we're at like 7 1/2. This perch is just over just 1/8. But we're gonna square that up, make sure that's good. And that's why we check it. You know, that little bit of 1/8 here can translate to a lot throughout this. Measure, you know, measure your perches to the backing plate. Here, measure, you know, from the edge of this. Just measure as many times as you can. I usually spend about 20-30 minutes measuring every point I can, making sure the leaf springs are square and loose, don't have any nuts on them. It does have weight on the axles, and I like to get the jack stands out as far as I can to simulate more of the weight versus in here. It seems like it just, oh, it seems like it sits better. Get the rear end supported, make sure it's square. That's our first hurdle. The next hurdle we have here is to set the pinion angle. And for those that don't know, pinion angle is the angle in which the rear end is tilted either up or down. In this case, as you can probably see, it's slightly up in the front. And let me show you the reason. All right, so here, obviously our drive shaft. We can see it has a downward angle. We take our little Harbor Freight special angle finder here. All right, so we got 4 point, well, this thing is really sensitive. I like to make sure that we're as square. Take your time to make sure you're under it and you're as square as possible. And there we have 4.8 degrees. It's 4.8 degrees of a downward slope. And this universal joint is preset from the factory. We haven't messed with that, so we don't have to worry about that. Now we're gonna go back to the back. We have the front drive shaft, and it comes to what we call our carrier bearing or our center support bearing. And that shaft runs straight through that bearing into this slip yoke. Yoke moves in and out, and that allows for travel in and out as the rear end goes up and down. But we move to the back here at the differential itself, and because the front is angled down, this one translate to here, we want an equal and opposite angle here so that all of our U-joints are running at what they call a working angle. If we're 4.8 degrees downward there, we want 4.8 degrees upward here. Another way to check it is you want the center line of the diff, right? This to be on the same plane as the drive shaft. And obviously they're at two different heights. So it's going to give you equal and opposite angles. So what I do here is I've got a little piece of scrap metal I like to use, and it's nice and flat. I don't know, some 3/16 or something. Take our magnetic angle finder, take that and you put it on the front of the yoke here, and you can see where we're at. So we're at 85.4. Okay, so for 4.8 degrees we need 85.2. So we just got to give it a little bump up. All right, and once again, you want to make sure you're as level as you can be, front to rear. A little more than that. There we go, 85.2. So 85.2 plus 4.8 gives us 90 degrees. Equal and opposite, front to rear. Now, we just come in here and stitch these up. What I'll do is I'll start and I'll weld these because they're easiest to get to, and that'll lock us down. And then one by one, I'll take these U-bolts off. So I'll remove this one, weld that side, put it back on, remove that one, weld that side, put it back on, and work my way on the other side. Now to lock down our purchase to run our perfect pinion angle. All right, we got it down on the ground for the first time. Check it out. Look at all that clearance. Yeah, buddy. Now, granted, it doesn't have the weight of the bed on it. Bumper, cooler full of not beers, so that's gonna go down a little more. But like I said, it's on the ground for the first time. You can see it's pretty low. The front, you can see it's jacked up a little bit in the front. We're gonna have to take another half a round out of it, I believe, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Everything looks cool. We got the inners, haven't put the outers on, and still gotta clean up the drums and hubs. Don't pay attention to that, but I mean, that's looking neat. Big shout out to Harris powder coating for the wheels. Got them looking fresh and clean. Kessler tire came through with some acceleras. These are a, where's the size? Whoop, 225, 75, 16. It's your kind of standard shorty dually tire, but like we talked about before, too much distance here. We got to fix this. I've taken measurements from that truck. That is a factory long bed dually. That was the parts one that all of this stuff came out of. Taking measurements off of it in relation to this truck, and the measurements I've taken, just to be clear, from this cab brace here to the center line of this brace, and the center line of this brace is the center line of the front spring location. Taking measurements from there, from these rivets to there. I've taken from the back of the cab to here. I've taken from the holes where the gas tank mounts to there, to there, to there. I've honestly measured for like an hour, and I figured out this chassis is 4 inches longer than that chassis. So that's a regular long bed. This is a cabin chassis. We're gonna fix it. We're gonna cut this chassis down. And here, I'll shed a little light on the situation. Maybe that helps you. This is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna cut 4 inches out. And in case this looks confusing, I'll explain it to you. 4 inches we know, so we took 4, 4, right? 4, 4. And basically it's gonna have a 4-inch Z. And we drilled the corners here, so when we cut it, it has a nice radius, and that lessens the likelihood of there being any kind of like stress risers on these corners. And also it gives you just more material where you can just bury the weld and wire off in it. It'll be welded inside and out. Everything will be beveled and it'll be nice. You'll see. Part of the Z, as we know, we're going to get rid of this section here. This guy, he's going to go. And we're going to get rid of this section here, here, and at the bottom. So now when this section and this section's gone and it's cut in half, these two will just slide together. Yeah, I've already got it mapped out on this side, so time to cut it. But first, oh, also a couple things. We got jack stands here, and I'm about to put some on here, right? So because you don't want this thing to flop around, put some jack stands on the back as well, just make sure this is as braced up as it can be. You don't want this thing to pop up or down or do anything funny when you make the through cuts. I've leveled the top of this to make sure it's dead level. It is perfect. Shimmed it up, jack stands, pieces of wood, and paint sticks to get it just perfect. So it's dead level. Also, be mindful of what's inside of your frame rails. So you can see here, take a bungee cord, pull back your wiring harness, your brake lines, your fuel lines, everything. Anything that's open like these fuel lines, we tape these over. We don't want any kind of dirt or debris to get into those. Obviously the drive shaft knocked up, bungee corded that out of the way. So yeah, now let's commence ruining this truck even more. All right, just like that. Cut, good. Now you can see the Z a little better, what I was talking about. We came in here and we beveled all those edges nice and deep. Everything looks good there, cleaned it back. Braced it up with some really thick wall tubing I had, C-clamped. These C-clamps are going to the inside with another piece of tubing, real thick wall, so all this is just nice. Got our angle gauge here, so made sure that our angle of the front half and the back half of the rail are the same. Everything's good. The jack's not actually under it. It was just there to get everything set up, but yeah, now time to do a little welding. As you probably see over there, got that side set up. Just double, triple check. Check all your measurements again. I measured here, I measured everything over there. And another great thing you can do is you can do what we call Xing it out. So what you do, you find common points on each side. So like we know that these 4 rivets here are going to be the same. We know that these holes here, they share it on each side. Also those holes. So just take measurements, Xing it across. 3 or 4 different measurements. Make sure everything's the same because you don't want this thing cattywampus at all. We're fixing to sew this thing up, and it's going to be what it's going to be here in a minute. So just take your time, make all your measurements, double check your other chassis if you have one outside like I do. Double check your wheelbase, double check everything. And everything is identical, maybe down to a 1/16 of the chassis outside. Good enough for me. Let's start welding. Kinda, sorta, something like that right there. Obviously we're gonna weld the inside, bottoms, and whatnot, but gives you an idea. You know, this is 1/4-inch frame. This is thick stuff. You have to take this very seriously. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, ask your buddy, ask your brother-in-law, ask somebody. You know, you don't want to go just like welding a frame back together and with a little 110 flux core thing. You know, it may stick, probably won't. Yeah, I'm gonna finish welding this inside and out. And I forgot to go to the store to get some fish plates and some boxing plates, but we'll show you that. Just, you know, just keep burning wire. All right, so the video may be jumping around a little bit at this point, but just wanted to kind of fill you in on what's going on. Help you get an idea of the process a little better. So as you remember, with this dually, we're using all of the dually stuff. So, or from the donor truck, I should say, the crew cab stuff, doors, fenders, hood, bed, etc., right? But we're using the cab from the single cab. Well, you probably couldn't tell, but someone had painted and they didn't paint the correct color, and it had a little rust in the cab corners and whatnot. So we're fixing it. We can't have that. We like patina, but we don't like mismatched, intentionally wrong stuff. So let me show you what's going on. Here we are on the dusty side of things. Well, my man Big T,
Dusty.
over here, beating it low, wiping it deep.
It's too early for that.
So you can see, bodywork is in full swing. Had a couple little whoopie-doos out there. He smoothed out. We did a couple little patches in the cab corner about the size of, I don't know, playing card or so. Worked those in. Had some extra holes. Somebody put some 6x9s. We weld those up, body work. Whole cab's gonna get a coat of primer. But, whoop. Oh, there we go. Obviously we're leaving these. So, oh yeah, had a little rust down here in the bottom. Cut all that out, welded new metal, body work that. We'll get this thing in primer. Gonna do it just like the way it was from the factory. Paint this white, then paint this, and then we're gonna kind of weather it a little bit, right?
Right.
Gonna make it look perfect?
Perfect enough.
Perfect enough. Perfect enough for this one. Started the paint and body process, but just this, and we're getting a brand new tailgate. Gonna get with our guys at Auto Metal Direct, get a brand new tailgate because the one that came with it was just whooped. And yeah, we're not messing with that. You can get a brand new tailgate for like $200. You're literally just DA it, paint it, you're done. So we're back with another beautiful sunny Saturday, but we're in here in the shop working on the Drama Dually, and we're going to try to tidy up some loose ends here. As you can see, Taylor got done with the paint and body work here, looking nice and slick, shiny. We'll do the blending of the graphics once the bed's on, and you know, so we can match all our lines up. So for now, it looks a lot better. But there's a couple things we wanted to go ahead and handle today that, you know, because this is a C30, because it's a dually and it'll probably get really used like a truck, wanted to really make sure that the chassis was as stiff as it possibly could be. And now, you remember, shorten to here. And I've seen trucks shortened this way and left alone and been totally fine. But you know, I might lose a little sleep at night knowing that I could have done better. So what we've done, ground the inside here, and we're gonna add what I call a fish plate, gusset plate, whatever. I can't really hold it up into place with one hand because this is quarter plate, just like the chassis. So it'll get perimeter welded over the Z, because you can roughly see where the Z was. So that'll get overlapped. I think it's 1.5 inches on each side. And we'll use that hole in the middle that some people were wondering why we left. We're gonna use that as a monster plug weld right in the middle, just to really tie it in there. And then when we get that done, we're gonna take this guy, right here, see if we can get it bigger with one hand somehow. We're also gonna box the chassis right there. Also quarter plate, have a nice little corner weld right here. Slightly, the chassis does step out a little bit right there, so it'll be like corner welded and then just kind of like a butt joint there. But yeah, so she's gonna be all of the gusseted here, so that'd be nice. And on the back, well, this kit from Tinworks, it's nice, don't get me wrong, but I felt like if we're ever gonna use this like a real truck, this area right here, she needs a little more gusseting. Once again, made some plates. That'll go, whoa, let's simmer down. That'll go in there somewhere like that. And that'll just box everything in and make it super strong so we never have to worry about it. And if we ever decide to do like airbag helpers or put a 5th wheel hitch in here, gooseneck, whatever, we'll never have to worry about it. Obviously I already got one for that side whittled up. So yeah, just gonna start burning some metal and get all this stuff gusseted so we can keep making progress. All right, I know everyone's had enough of watching time lapses of welding, so I just went ahead and knocked this out. As you can see, we got our plates in here. We got our little, let's sneak in here. Yeah, see we got our gusset plate in there. Got some nice little caterpillars. Yeah, sewed it up. I mean, these aren't the world's prettiest welds, but I wanted to be as strong as possible. Gusseted, boxed there, 3 inches on each side of the Z. And then went ahead and knocked this out as well. Threw some caterpillars down on that guy. So yeah, now we're in the midst of what I like to call the Rust-Oleum restoration. I left all the welds on the outside, 2 reasons. 1, because when you remove the weld, to me, you're removing some strength. And 2, I'm not trying to hide anything. I mean, literally, I'm making a YouTube video of this, so I feel like some people try to make it disappear, but I'm gonna tell you, this thing was cut down, it was boxed, it was Z'd, it was gusseted. I don't think it'll ever be a problem. It's probably the strongest section of the frame, if we're being honest. So I went over the rest of the chassis with my good old wire brush, a 4.5-inch grinder, and I got a drill over there with a little wire brush. Knocked all the grease off the rear end, knocked the rust off the drums. Almost forgot to film this because I didn't want anyone to think that the old grinder and paint will make you the welder you ain't. Yeah, there it is. So much uglier, so much better. For this particular, I like the Rust-Oleum Professional, and this is the semi-gloss. Kind of hard to find. Lowe's had it. You know, I think it's like $8 a can. It's got a great sheen. Like this side over here is just about dry. You know, if this was like a different truck, you know, like if it was something we wanted to show, this would be blasted and we'd put epoxy and put some really good paint on here. But this is more than most anyone would do. And as old as this thing is, it didn't get any worse than this with some paint on it. And I just couldn't bring myself to paint just that area and just that area, and it looked like a zebra or something. Let's paint the whole rails. So. Woo, buddy! Look at them things right there now. All right, there's my first dually right here. Turned out pretty sweet. Got everything with the Rust-Oleum restoration here, looking good. So the last part of the lowering kit, or lowering kit stuff I pieced together, are these guys right here. Now we can take a look at them, and these are from Switch Suspension. This is their C30 specific 10 bolt axle specific. So when they refer to a 10 bolt, for those that don't know, count the number of bolts on the differential cover 10 or 14. That's the 2 axles that came in these. And this is their shock extender. Pretty slick. Came with hardware, but not enough hardware. They sent me the wrong length bolts and not enough washers, but you know, I went and, you know, got some from the part store, not a huge deal. So this is going to bring your lower shock point down and out or back a little bit. And that's going to correct the angle of the shock so it works correctly. They didn't tell me or list on their website that you had to run a different shock. Every shock extender I've ever used, you can still run your stock shocks. Not with this kit. Kind of inconvenient. Wish they would have put that in the description, but it's okay. I called them up, found out which shock I needed, recommended they put it in their thing or in their description. They were real receptive, so maybe. This is a Magahi's, that company, shock, part number 1850. And yeah, it's just a short drop shock or whatever. Comes with a bag of different sleeves, different mount types, a new mounting stud. I think this is kind of a universal shock per se, but I don't know, whatever. Comes with the bushings in it, obviously. Yeah, just straightforward a shock. There's only one sleeve, so you'll check the sleeves. I think it's these bigger guys. Yeah, bigger guys right here. This is the one you run top and bottom. Double check that it goes over your factory stud here, and then your factory lower bolt will go through it. You just knock them in with put a little soapy water, bump them in with a hammer. That's that, and it will look like this. The point the shock's at now versus the point where the shock was, so the shock would have been laying way further back, and the further it goes down, it reduces the effectiveness of the shock itself. Now it's just a matter of hooking up the drive shaft when it comes back from the drive shaft shop, hopefully Monday. We'll see. Go ahead and put the fuel tank in. I've got all that stuff. That's just bolting a fuel tank in. That's straightforward. I think we're ready to set the bed on. Put the bumper on, make it look like a truck, actually get the full grasp of what this thing is gonna look like. It's gonna be cool. All right, so today's the day. We're gonna start this thing. We just bled the brakes on it, put in the new drive shaft, or shortened drive shaft. We got the battery into the proper battery tied down position. Now we're going to put the bed on. So this will give us like a better idea of the complete look. We're gonna put the bed on, maybe hang some fenders, I don't know. But yeah, here's the first drive, if you will. Woo! Didn't even pat the gas on that one. Hold on. Oh yeah. It's a hot rod. It's tied down. Oh, here we go. Nothing gets me finger gun happy like a project somewhat coming together. Got the fender hung on with 2 bolts. The bed's just sitting on it, but this kind of gives you a visualization of how sweet this is going to look. Obviously, we took 1 round out of the front coils. The guy online, the 8 lug life dude, he said 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. You know, we erred on the side of caution. It's probably going to get another half round out, but you'll see that in the next video. We want to get this front wheel opening somewhere closer to this vicinity, so we got to get her tucked down here a little bit so it matches the rear. It's going to be really cool. But that's going to wrap us up for today. for this especially long episode. For those that are still hanging around, we appreciate you sticking with us, seeing this one through. For those that fast forwarded, you get to see this, and hopefully you go back and check out the rest of it. Still got a lot of things to do. We're going to do some more buffing and cleaning and build an exhaust for it and do some really neat things. Fix the big hole that I had to cut in the bed. Interior, you know, spend another $100,000 on it. But it's all worth it in the end. Hey, thanks once again for sticking around. Like, subscribe, you know the deal. We'll see you next time.